Hey guys, welcome to the lab and another episode of Sundaze with the Clink Room. Today we're joined by Matthew Gunning, aka Falconer 18. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Good. Wanted to get you on the show. Appreciate you reaching out and offering to be on the show. But learning a little bit more about you off air has been exciting. So I'm really excited to kind of share your story and your kind of perspective because we've been doing a lot of artists and clinkers themselves and people who've been able to collaborate and stuff like that. But we haven't done a collector in a long time. So I guess first and foremost, what is your collector origin story? What got you into collecting fitted hats?
Well, I've worn hats since I was in high school. So I grew up in Michigan and, had hats for my various teams. Those were old school, the dad caps and the trucker style and that kind of stuff. I grew up, that's what we had. And moved down here. I've lived in Atlanta now for almost 30 years. And so I've been a hat guy, snapbacks and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really get into fitteds until, I don't know, probably about 6-7 years ago. And they started coming out and I was like, I had to figure out my size and all that kind of stuff. And, got my first couple of fitteds. And for me, interestingly, my sort of entry into the hat world wasn't actually Clink. I now have more Clink hats than probably anything else. But a couple of one of the companies, I'm going to show a couple.
Sure. Yeah. No.
One of the ones I discovered is a Toronto-based Milk Toronto, which was a boutique streetwear kind of place. And he had a retail shop in Toronto. I think that's closed down. He still has some online. Mm-hmm. This is hilarious. Baseball pitcher. I just saw this and the artistry and the sense of humor about it really grabbed me. And then Milk Toronto, their other motif is the serial killer. And so sometimes it's the hockey mask,
right,
throwback. And then sometimes there's a bowl of cereal and there's some jokes about that. And so that's one of the companies that sort of made me realize that hats could be more than just sports teams, but they actually could have artistry. They could do great things with color. They could have a sense of humor. And another artist that sort of grabbed me was Dionic. And so this is one of his, he's famous for his octo sluggers, but, he's got like his, ghost pirate kind of thing. And I thought this was just absolutely great. And a second one from him, I just got this one recently, but it was on my wish list. And so, the flying bat and then another company too, that's also north of the border. There's a lot of great Canadian companies putting out hats, and Noble North is another one that recently I featured their 4 elements pack that was available. For me, I personally came upon Clink 4 years ago. So we're celebrating the 5th anniversary and lots of us on Instagram are tagging, 31 days of Clink and we're celebrating. And for me, I wasn't sure about this whole thing. Like you pay your money and then like you get a hat, and during COVID, there were these huge delays and then getting some of their shipments.
Fun times.
So, people are like, how does this really work? It's kind of like a Kickstarter style company. And so for me personally, this is probably my favorite. So I have I probably have close to 80 Clinks now. So, but this is the one, and I'm a hockey player. So I wear this a lot when I go to hockey games, and it shows a lot of things I like about Clink hats in terms of like color and artistry and design. But as we go on, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about when we look at perspective designs, what I like and what other collectors might want different things. But I personally like a strong logo. I like a strong color cast. And at our house, we really go all out for Halloween. And so Clink's made some great hats. So like, I like this. I love this Bat Boy hat that's come out, and then just one that literally just came in recently. Some of the other Halloween designs, and this one, it's so much better than the photos on the website.
Yeah.
So if you're on the fence, go get this one. There's still some in the dead stock category. So I mean, look at the thickness on that embroidery, and look at how they took the normal Clink logo, but now it's made out of skull and bones for that awesome Halloween, look. So it was me kind of just finding out that when it comes to fitted hats, it's not just sports teams, that there's humor, there's color, there's comedy. And so that really sucked me in. And so, especially since I found Clink Room 4 years ago, I've been certainly acquiring a lot more hats than I had before, which tended to almost always be based around sports teams.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You mentioned hockey. I see a nice hockey hat behind you there, Sap Shot. That's a beauty right there. Yes, sir. That one.
Yeah. So this is another one. I think this was Team Collective. I could be wrong about this. But,
that's Capologist.
Is it? Oh, that's you. Okay.
That's me.
Did you make this one?
Yep.
All right. Well, I have to tell you. So I was up in Toronto. I went for a Lego convention last November, and this was one of my Canada themed hats. But this was just hilarious. So the maple syrup with the leaf, playing hockey. It just has a sense of humor. It's kind of whimsical. There's some action, and of course I'm still playing hockey. I don't make any claims to be great at it, but I whack the puck around and I have some fun. So awesome. I love that hat.
We need the Maple Leafs to channel their Team Cannon in this and clutch up. But I don't know. By the time people watch this, they might be out of the playoffs. We'll see. But do you remember the first hat that kind of made you say, like, yeah, I'm gonna need more of these?
The very first one. Well, I can tell you the first Clink I bought. The first Clink that I bought was the lion that's the constellation Leo. Right. And so it had the star pattern and it had a lion imposed over it. And I went, okay, this is a work of art from my perspective. So, I mean, I was like, this isn't just like a mascot but like, to me, it's taking something that's kind of an everyday thing. I've worn hats every day for most of my adult life. I'm a hat guy, but it's raised it to a whole level of art, and it's wearable art. I mean, that's how I think about it. So, nowadays they talk about wearable technology. People can have stuff on their clothes, but to me, especially what we see with Clink Room is wearable art. And so that's how I tend to think of it. And that's what made me go, I want more of that. And in my day job, I wear hats, but it's a little unusual. Like, I'm a professor. So I'm known as that professor that wears Clink Room hats. I wear them in class, and I'm a little older than my students now. I'm getting up there, but it's something that connects me. So I'll have students come up, and sometimes they'll go, Professor Goodman, it's a dope hat you got. I'm like, thanks. It's a way for me to connect with my students, but it's also a way to show some personality. And oftentimes the hat that I choose for the day has a reason why I picked it. And so sometimes I'll say, well, why'd you wear that one today? And so we'll just have a conversation. So it's that way of showing your personality. It's a way of wearing art on your person. So it's another way of expressing yourself, I think.
Right, that's awesome. Are there any particular like themes, colorways, side patches that kind of grab your attention the most?
I would say, I started going through and looking at some of my favorites, and strangely, what I noticed is when I went through is that I like the objects a lot. So. Right. Like I've got the cross band-aids here. And then recently there was the one that had like the Valentine's Day piece of candy that's cracked that says "I'm fine." like I'm actually surprised at just how many when I went through and started looking at them, how many things that I like are objects. So like, this is a leaf. It's not necessarily doing anything, but I just kind of like, I guess, that style, that the symbolism that comes with an object. And I'm not huge into Kongs, and I'm not huge into skeletons. I'm not, but I like the landscapes. So I know some people are tired of landscapes, but I buy a lot of the landscapes. It's funny that I didn't bring any of them to put on the air today, but I do like the landscapes. I like the scenery and that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm less concerned with like action and movement in clinks that I'm attracted to. I'm more sort of interested in the symbolism or maybe the story that the
Yeah,
object conveys.
almost like a still photography or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there any like grails that are kind of that you've been chasing that kind of elude you? Maybe hats that released
Mm.
before your clink time?
Yeah, I recently started. So I recently started going back through, and I actually was making a spreadsheet of all the different things that have appeared on Clink designs, and I'm only through the first 2 years, so I still got 3 more years to put in the spreadsheet. But
Oh,
there's definitely a few from the first year before I even discovered the Clink design. I have been pretty fortunate in that I've been able to acquire a number of hats that I missed through trading and
right.
some of the websites that are out there. So there's some Facebook groups and whatnot. So I filled in a couple of those, but yeah, there's a list in my spreadsheet. I've noted the ones where I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't mind if I could ever get my hands on that particular one.
Yeah, yeah. I know they're not really like good at bringing back like the original hat as it came, but if you had the chance to bring back like a hat, like which one would you bring back in your version? I guess.
So I'm really sorry I missed out on Raygun.
Okay.
That's one that they have done a second colorway of it, but the
Hmm.
very first version of Raygun, I'm really sorry I missed that one. Like that one was just
Yeah, yeah.
great.
That one did crazy. That one sold gangbusters, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's
so you introduced yourself to me as a Lego artist. I in my ignorance mixed it up because there is another clinker, Atalu, who's I believe Peruvian living in Denmark that actually like it works for Lego as an artist. But you were kind of explaining to me a little bit earlier off air, but let's talk about this MOC thing. So you yourself, you stream, and you're kind of heavy into that community. What does being a Lego artist mean to you?
Yeah, so I grew up. Lego is a European Danish company, and
Mhm.
when I was a little kid in the '70s and '80s, my parents bought me some what's now called classic space Lego. And so I didn't have a ton of Lego, but they were all space stuff. And so this is right after Star Wars came out, and I just spent hours and hours building my own little spaceships and having adventures. And so, as with most people, when you hit your 20s and 30s, most people step away and their lives get busy. You're doing professional career type stuff. And I came back to Lego when the Star Wars stuff came back to Lego, and they had some of the ships and things I dreamed about building when I was that 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and now you could actually buy them in a Lego set. And then so I was buying sets, but then what's really emerged out of that is a whole culture, and the culture is called AFOL, or Adult Fan of Lego. And for Adult Fan of Lego, people buy the stuff and they start making their own things that you can't buy at a store. And so there's conventions all over the world. The biggest one in North America is in Chicago. I was up in Toronto last November for a big convention up in there. So I stream with two different groups. On Wednesdays, I stream with the Canadian Brick Builders. And here in Atlanta, we have a bunch of middle-aged guys. So our stream's called Old Gray Bricks because we're all getting a little gray there. And I go to these conventions. So right behind me, you can see those are I tend to do architecture type stuff. So
Cool.
I'll tip it up. So the top is based on San Francisco style Victorians, and then the
Yeah,
pink one
full
is
house.
a conceptual I call it the Bubblegum Company headquarters. So it's like pink bubbles,
Hmm.
and then below there on the side of me is buildings based on San Juan, Puerto Rico. So I got to go to Puerto Rico for a work trip and was blown away by the beauty of Old San Juan. And I walked around and just took pictures, and I came back and I said, I'm going to build that out of Lego. Every single one of those buildings is an actual building in Puerto Rico. Sometimes I change the colors up a little bit, but
Hmm.
and so I take these two conventions, and I also, if anyone's interested, my Instagram handle's the same as my screen name here, which is Falconer18. And there's a lot of hat pictures recently, but if you scroll back far enough, you'll see some of the
Get the
Lego
Lego
stuff that
stuff.
I've made. And so that's my creative outlet. And so while I haven't designed hats, I am starting to get a little bit of an itch to maybe try my hand at it. But
Right.
having watched this show, I realize that it's a challenging process. I see some very, very talented designers and artists whose hats don't get made. There's every other week, it breaks my heart. There's a design that I just am like, oh, I would so wear that, and it just doesn't get voted in. And I think, wow, these people are good. They're much better than I would be as a total newbie. And so, I've got my artistry here with the Lego world, and I'm a little tempted to maybe dip my toe into the hat making, but I just appreciate it. From one type of artist to a different type of artist, I really appreciate the work and the creativity and the sense of humor that goes into some of these things, and the cleverness where I'm like, oh, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, the puns. I need to find out through Casey who did their Kong that's made out of Lego, because that's definitely not something you buy in the store. It's huge.
Is that right?
Huge, yeah.
Okay.
I'll check my camera roll to see if I have some pictures.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
No, it's a whole gorilla. I think he's holding a hat like this, almost life size. I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, it's definitely made by a Lego artist, because that's not something you can just grab. But in terms of your process, like your creative process when you're starting a new like MLQ, where do you start first? Do you sketch? Are you building digitally? Are you kind of freestyling? Like
I take pictures. So when I'm out and about, if I see something that's just cool, I just stop and take a picture. I'll be driving in the road and I'll do a U-turn. Right. My spouse would be like, a building? I'm like, oh yes, I saw something. And so sometimes it could be just a window treatment or a doorway or entryway. Maybe it's just a piece of a building that I just thought was interesting. And so that's one of the things. I collect pictures as inspiration. Now I don't necessarily build it exactly the same way, but it just gets me thinking. Right. I also like to look at, I sometimes will hop on Pinterest and I'll just search for a style of art or building, and I'll just page through, and it kind of gets my mind off of the concerns of the day, and it starts getting me thinking creatively. And I'll save pictures to a folder, and I'll say, this is inspirational. I'd like to do something like this. Mm-hmm. One other thing that I wanted to mention, actually, when I got into building Lego, and one of the things I really tried to do about 3-4 years ago is to push my use of color. And right. So in Lego, you don't get to choose your colors, but you can't make the color, but you can mix, right. You can control the mix. And so my spouse got me this 2 books on color theory. And so there's a couple of artists, there's a couple times I'll see designs that people post, and the line work is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I look at that and I say, if they tweak those colors just a little bit more, like I think it would be even better. And that's one thing that's really excited about seeing some of the new colorways or the fresh colorways that come out, is occasionally you'll see somebody take a pre-existing design and alter the colors in a way that just makes you see completely different things in that design. And so, one of the things I really benefited as an artist is just reading about color theory. Mm-hmm. And these books are really written for watercolorists or oil painters, and I don't get to make my colors. But what I learned from these is light, dark, and contrast, how much you, the artist, can direct the eye at what you want it to notice by your choice. And so, like in one of these books, there's a panel where they have the exact same scene. It's like trees, it's a nature scene, but they colored it differently. And when you look at the 3 panels, you actually notice different details. And that really drove home to me how much you, the artist, have a surprising amount of power in directing the attention of your viewer. And so if there's one thing that, I've tried to use that in my Lego artistry, but also one of the things that, you'll probably hear me comment as we go along is like, oh, I like this, but maybe the color could be a little bit better, or wow, this color just jumps out at you. It's a really good contrast and it's a really rich color. And so that's one thing I would say that would translate from what I do with Lego bricks into hat design is I just encourage people to think about their use of color and play with color more. On Instagram, some of the artists will put up their perspective design and they'll show it in 3 or 4 different color patterns and different color backgrounds. And it's remarkable sometimes how the change in the background color alters your perception of the emblem or the logo that's on the front. And so I would just encourage people to play with color a little bit more, maybe be more adventurous
Yeah.
in their use of color.
One thing too, in my limited art background, I had to drop biology, and I needed to pick something up, so I took grade 12 art. But one thing I learned from the color wheel is all the, I guess, the opposite colors, or I get the complementary colors, I think they're called. But a lot of the teams use those. So like purple, yellow, blue, orange, and stuff like that. Like, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of theory that has already been, like, used, studied, and already applied, because you'll see them used on teams all the time. Like, okay, so they're just using that color. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's awesome. In terms of your typical builds from conception to completion, how often do you ever hit that, like, this is not working? Like, I gotta pull out.
So I'm an episodic builder. So
Okay.
the painted ladies, that's the term. These Victorians that are above me, I built those over 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So I built the facade of one, and then I set it aside, and then I come back, and then I worked on the bag, and then I set it aside for a few months. Then I came back and I built the second story front, and then I set it aside and I built the second story back, and then I built all of the colors. They're all the same on the front, but the backs are completely different when I flip them around. So they're each back of the building is unique. And then I finished the roofs, and then I had to figure out what to do in the Piedmont area, the triangular top of each one. So sometimes I'll help people come up at a convention and say, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. I can't imagine building that." And I said, "Well, I built it over 3 years. I set it aside and I thought over it and I came back to it." So I'm that kind of iterative builder.
Right.
There are times where if I use the guest bedroom, which only gets used like once a year. That's where it's the island of misfit Lego projects that
Right.
I started building but didn't quite finish, or I just kind of like, I don't know, and I go in there and it gets set on the bed until I have to clear it off because we have a guest come over. But there definitely are some rejects. I also am very much a trial and error sort of person. Okay. So like if I'm building a building, I'll do like one pattern on the right side, and I'll do sometimes a very different pattern on the left side. And then I'll call in my spouse and I'll say, don't think about it. Just tell me instantly which side you like better, the right or the left. Just give me your immediate sort of gut reaction to it. And then I'll say, okay, the right, that's the way to go. And I'll tear down the left side and I'll make them similar as they go up. So there's definitely practice. There's definitely things that didn't work out. I suppose, we see this with artists all the time, and they'll work on a logo and they'll get feedback from other artists online, and they'll say, I think you need to work on the hands, or, you need to, maybe turn the body a little bit and that sort of thing. And so a similar thing happens with Lego.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you a Lego purist when it comes to like parts? Do you ever like custom paint bricks, third-party accessories, modify? Like, I don't even know if these are like faux pas to ask about.
Oh no, these are hot button issues.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's a huge divergence of opinion about this in the builder world. So I'm tend to more the purist end. I rarely will buy a non-Lego product. Right. I will buy Lego products that have printing on them or stickers that Lego doesn't make. So as a company, Lego likes to avoid guns, religion, anything that's too violent or drug related. So they're not going to make anything that has that stuff. So every once in a while, I'll buy a custom printed thing. So just as an example, this is a third party, and they did minifigs for The Shining, right? So we've got the twin girls, and Lego doesn't make that kind of stuff. So if you wanted to do like a Shining scene, you could go buy these third party custom printed minifigures. A friend of mine, he will actually stain clear transparent to change it to yellow, and he'll actually cut Lego with an X-Acto knife, and that's the forbidden zone for me personally. I don't like to physically destroy or change the Lego, but other people do. So it's a free country. You buy your Lego, you can cut it up if you want to, but I tend not to do that sort of thing. So
right. And I've definitely seen, like, I've come across my page where I follow a couple people that do like wrappers and stuff, and they'll package it to make it look exactly like a Lego thing. That's kind of cool. But yeah, in terms of like the kind of resurgence too, with like the Lego movies and the games that came with it, like is that something you look at as a positive? I mean, I think it did help kind of save the company too, right?
Yeah, we call it the IP, the intellectual properties, and so Star Wars was the big one, and
Hmm.
it really helped. It caused the company to explode, frankly. So
Yeah.
Harry Potter, Lego, those sold extremely well, but also some of the video games. So Minecraft was originally a product that they only put out these 4 tiny cubes, and they sold like gangbusters. And so Legos had a Minecraft line that's been running for years now because gamers also like to build their stuff physically. I guess, some of it with gaming is it's all on a screen. And so you can make it tangible, you can build something. And so, that's a whole series of lines that have taken off. For me personally, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And so we've been getting some of the really big sets. So like last year, we got a big the Tower of Barad-dûr.
Mhm.
We've got a Rivendell, which are on the opposite wall from where I'm sitting right now. So I like those like really big sets that are aimed at adult collectors like myself, who can afford to drop a couple of bucks on a really big set. So the nice thing about Lego recognizing that there are these adults who will buy these big massive sets is that we're getting stuff we never would have gotten if they are only making sets for kids.
Yeah.
And so, as a marketplace, they've started to realize that they have multiple types of consumers. They've got, your consumer who's 40 and can buy a $500 Lego set. And they've got the kid that's the grandma that wants to buy a $15 Lego set. And so they're trying to figure out how to satisfy that range of consumers.
Yeah, yeah. You're now I'm realizing though you're a great friend to have because I have anxiety with this stuff sometimes watching my friends' kids build their Legos and stuff like that, and they're having like one piece go missing, and then I wouldn't know what to do. So you're a good guy to have on on an emergency need to know basis. Like, hey man, this X-wing is missing a part, man. Like, what are they gonna do?
I
But
am I am known in my neighborhood as the guy who has pretty much everything. And one of my friends, he's a stop motion Lego photographer. He makes videos for Lego itself as a freelancer. Sometimes I'll get a text at 11:30 at night. Do you have 5 of these in blue? I say yes. He goes, can you leave him in the mailbox? I'll pay you for him. And so like he lives about 15 minutes away,
that's
and he'll
awesome.
be furiously trying to finish up some project, and he needs like just a couple more parts, and he doesn't have them in his personal parts. So I just set him in the mailbox, and he comes and gets them. And but yeah, I've had parents ask me like, hey, do you have any of this, because this, my son daughter lost this piece, and I'm like, yeah, I've got that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, cool. So thank you so much for doing that part of it. It's good to kind of get to know you on a personal level, and it's a different type of art form, which is interesting for me to learn about for sure. But let's kind of cover what happened with the Clink Room.
Awesome.
So this week there was a dead stock drop. 8 hats dropped. So for those who don't know, these are typically leftovers, extras, or cancellations. Typically, you can get these and shipped to you right away, so you won't have to wait for the pre-order period to end. 4 hats here: Zombie, Incoming Call, Setsubun, and Goals. Anything stick out to you in these first 4 hats?
Uh, the third one on the sets, I don't know how you pronounce it, Setsuban.
Setsubun, yep.
That's definitely on my maybe list. I'm definitely going, ooh, that's the kind of logo I like. It's going to look good from 10 feet away. It's going to look good from 2 feet away. Also, the surf and seagull, I like that a lot as well. It's going to read really well. For me personally, I like the two on the right because they do read really well, and
Mhm.
you don't have to inspect it to sort of see what's going on. I mean, you might look closer and see things you didn't catch at first glance, but I value things that read at a quick glance. That's something I like. So the two on the right would definitely get my attention.
Right, right. Not really a bad one in the bunch, I would say. The Japanese one, the Setsubun one, not the typical like Hanya mask color, but that's all right. A little kind of
It's
different with the 3 horns, but um, it's different. It's different. Zombie is real cool too, with the kind of like the Wu Tang Killer murder bee kind of thing.
I
And
think
yeah,
the incoming call is just a fun design. So
yeah,
it's that kind of sci-fi, like twist, like they get there and there's like, what?
yeah, yeah.
There's a phone.
I picture that one being like a secret to his other one. I think it was called Great Expanse, which was like the guy sitting on a car looking at the sky. Do you remember that one?
I own it. Yes. I
Okay,
bought that
so
one.
I like for me, like I'm like, yo, those that's a part one and two. Like the guy on Earth looking in the sky, he's thinking about his dad, his brother, whatever, as an astronaut, and the
it,
astronaut looking at the payphone. I'm like, frick, I
it,
want to
it
get
this also feels like a slight satire of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So instead of
back.
them digging up like an obelisk, they like dug up a phone on the moon, and they're like, what?
Exactly, exactly. All right, moving forward, we got Morning Pal, Diamond Kong, Bastet. I can't read, and Frenchie Pup. Anything stick out to you here?
Uh, best Ed is on my list as well. I very much like that. I like mythological themes, so I
Right.
bought quite a few of the Clinks over the years that have like Greek or Egyptian, or we've got quite a few Latin American, like Aztecs and Mayan figures as well. Those I get into. I'm a big fan of history, and so seeing like an Egyptian deity. That and the colors, I love those colors. So like the yellow and the gold and the light blue, that attracts me both because of the subject matter, but also the colorway, and it kind of really stands off of the dark blue background. So that one would definitely get my attention.
Right, for sure. The Bastet one, he's kind of hidden a couple of like the different symbols in there, Eye of Horus, and I kind of I forget what that one is called on the cat's head. I just remember Mankind would wear that on the back all the time. The wrestler McFoley. Uh, but yeah, this is a good set for sure. I actually picked up 3 out of the 4 on this slide, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I'll just show you real quick.
yeah.
Jason V, always good for a French Bulldog hat. Black, pink, gray under. I'm always in. Embroidery on this impeccable too.
Looks
Like
great.
just like the little chunky parts of the skin, you can feel the ridges, and
Yeah,
even the face, like the different muscle indentations and stuff like that. They nailed this hat.
it has volume. Like just looking at it, even on a hat, you feel the volume of the
Yeah,
creature. Yeah,
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then I picked up Diamond Kong by Raphael. Like, nice little,
nice contrast against the background. Like that really pops against the black.
yeah, so smooth. Yeah, you could feel like the texture of like the gem. Blue under to kind of match like the blues in there. And then Sierras. I had to get this. The embroidery on this thing. Hold on.
Oh, you're gonna make me jealous.
The embroidery on it. See how
Whew.
like one cat is behind the main cat. This thing is so good.
I think that the depth of the stitching is the one thing. So I've been posting a hat of the day on my Instagram since November, and I have lots of non-hat friends. And
Yeah,
one of the comments that I've seen a few people make is they said, "Holy cow! Like look how thick those emblems. Just look how that's built up."
yeah.
And you being in the business, do they put down a base layer and then stitch on top of it, or how do they accomplish that depth? Do you know?
It's part of their like trade secrets, but I
Okay,
believe
okay,
a
all right.
lot of it has to do with like them being able to communicate with the digitizer how they want it to stitch out.
Okay.
So I know Casey has taught like he's got internal staff that work on it too, but for some of the artists they've like openly talked about like how Casey taught them like here's the sketch, this is the way you sketch it out, so you include this with your files so they get an idea of how to build it out. But essentially it's almost like a sculpture
Hmm.
because we'll go back to it too, but
So
like
yeah,
some of them are like these are more flat, this is more raised, and then this is even a higher level of raised. It's crazy.
it's amazing. So I was wearing the Fallen Titan hat yesterday, which is like a ancient Greek kind of
Yep.
helmet that's like for a giant. And
Spartan
there's
helmet.
trees growing out of it,
Yeah, the
and
Milo face.
the depth of that, the brow ridge on that, it just stands out from the rest of the embroidery, and it's just fantastic. I mean, it just really is. And
Yeah,
so I'm not trying to get getting you in trouble for revealing any trade secrets. I'm just
No, no,
as
no.
as an appreciator of artistry and
For
hat, I
sure.
just tip my hat to the folks who figured out how to do that. Because I mean, even the one I'm wearing right now, the black line on this is significantly taller than the white, the Band-Aid stitching behind it. It really does. It makes it like you can rub your finger across it. It's really is like a three-dimensional sculpture.
I think part of it too was just them being so like their history of being a design studio for the minor league teams, and I think they had like a level of access to New Era that no one really had because when you're rebranding a team, uh, that team's gonna wear that hat for however many years. So I think that they got used to being able to communicate with them in a way, and then they would get what's called swatch samples. So the New Era would embroider it on a flat piece of cloth and send it to them. So they
Oh,
kind of got used to that level of service. Now I believe they just work off of swatch samples that are just pictures, but they still get a swatch. Like they still can see how it prints out. So if you look at the production tracker, you can see like art submitted, swatch received or swatch like there's different levels
mm-hmm.
um that regular hat makers just don't get. Like for me, even for like I submit for a capologist, I submit a piece of art, it comes back, I get to approve it or not approve it. But anytime I really send in like edits and whatever, they just kind of ignore me. They're like, yeah, whatever, man. We did the work already. Just approve it. So I want you to approve it, then you start building with it. But for them, they actually, I believe they actually see like swatches. I think post pandemic they stopped shipping them
Mm.
and they just work off of pictures. But yeah, it's like literally thousands of designs they've done, and they know what they want. So, and they don't settle for less. So, I mean that's good business practice. But definitely, yeah, time has been on their side for sure. All right, moving forward, these next 6 designs, this is your last call and your last chance to get these before they get sent for production. So these next 6 designs, their pre-order ends at midnight tonight Eastern. So we got Butcher Birds, The Shrike Part 2, Hand and Heart, and Cosmic Oasis. Anything stick out to you here?
Oh, I love Cosmic Oasis. So it's definitely got my eye. It's got that the it's very clear at a distance. It's got that bit of a space, and it's got landscape kind of mixed together. And I like how the tree leaves break the circle, so it breaks out of that circle.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Butcher too. It's hard to make birds look, it's especially menacing, but this one looks like you wouldn't want to cross them.
Yeah, I believe shrikes take lizards and stab them through cactuses. So fun bird. That's the shrike, the butcher bird. Yeah, nasty person or a nasty bird, but cool design. I do prefer part 1, but having part 1, I need part 2. So 40 definitely one of my favorites. All right, moving forward, we got Golden State, Raphael, Cherry Bomb, Seamus, and the Rhinelander by Levi and Wes. Them continuing their cryptozoology series. Anything stick out to you?
Yeah, I like both of the ends. So growing up, we had the little honey in the bear shaped container, and it I think looks like you did too. And so that was just part of my childhood. It was at the dinner table. My mom was made her own bread, so I was spoiled. I got like fresh rolls and breads and stuff like that, and putting honey and butter on a slice of bread just out of the oven was fantastic. So there's some nostalgia there. I have never, I'm not a Californian, so that part doesn't get me, but just that whole childhood with Honey Bear and good times eating delicious food brings back good memories. Makes me want that one. And then the cryptozoology on the end, this is the kind of thing that gets me. Like it's the emblem is just one color, but it
Yeah.
just stands out so nice against that rich kind of burgundy-ish I don't know the proper name of the color, but like it just really stands out. And even if you're looking at that hat from 10 feet away, you're going to see that shape, and you're going to see the curl of the tail, and you're going to see the bend in the horns. And it's a nice design. Someone put a lot of time and effort in all those little details, and I like the middle one too. It's just probably not the thing I'd wear. So,
Mhm.
if I win the lottery, I'll just get every Clink that comes out. But I haven't won the lottery yet, so
Yeah,
I got to make choices.
for sure, for sure. I like the subtle ness of the Golden State, like the colors of the hat kind of match the flag, California
Yep.
Republic. Um, Cherry Bomb's cool too. The neon sign, cherry bomb. I never actually played with cherry bombs. I only seen them like on The Simpsons and in movies when people like throw them into the boys' like public washer, like the school washroom, and then blowing up like
Here's
clothes.
here's a question. Here's a question for me as a hat buyer, but not a hat designer. So some of the in the last couple of year or two, we've been getting some of the hats are using metallic threads, and so if you're trying to do something and you're trying to give it like in this case we're going for a neon look.
Mhm.
Um, are there restrictions on things like metallic threads? Are they more expensive, or does it depend on the hat maker? If do you have as a designer, do you have like the full color palette available to you?
Yeah, so for metallics, there's a limited palette, and there's been like this surge of people using them. So New Era actually reduced the number of metallics you can put on a hat
Okay.
to speed up the production because typically the metallic threads break more often. So if you're breaking
Mm,
more often, it slows down the production time. At first, it was limited to three colors per hat, metallic, and over 80% of the logo couldn't be metallic. Now they've kind of loosened it. They did three metallics per logo. Um, Now that they're kind of caught up a little bit, but yeah, there is a limit to um the colors. So typically, like if you're in the know or know someone, or even I think Clink provides the color palette too, so you can download the color palette on their website. It's not the
and
most updated one though.
does that also apply? So obviously, some of the Clink designs use glow in the dark threads. Is that
Mhm.
also is that a restricted thing, or is it just more
Mhm.
expensive, or it's just
No, it's you just choose it. So it'll appear white, but it'll glow in the dark. Um, they only have the one color that glows, so it'll glow green. So anything you see that glows green.
okay?
There's other technology. I don't know if they put it to threads yet, but I know there's other powders that you can add to like enamel to make them glow purple, red, orange, blue, but they don't glow as good. Green is for whatever reason, green glows the best. Blue is not bad, but it doesn't glow bright, if that makes any sense. Red doesn't even glow bright, but it does. There is glow red, but those they don't look good over time.
Yeah.
Um, and guys, stick by because we are going to preview next week's Fresh Colorway Drop. So that will come at the end. And then now we're moving on to the crits. So these next 20 designs that we will cover will all be up for voting starting tomorrow on Clink's story. So if you want to see any of these hats kind of get made, make sure you guys vote tomorrow. So first one, Day Drinkers. Creature and Soundwaves teamed up for this one. This one's kind of funny too. The sun's got the little blotch of sunblock. That's a cool little thing.
I,
What's your initial thoughts on this?
I very much like this. This will get my vote. Like you said, you've got the detail, you've got that daiquiri in the hand. You've got that little red halo around the sun's head. Nice contrast between the emblem and the back color, and a sense of humor about it. And the title, Day Drinkers. Um, it's got humor, it's got clean design, it's got some nice colors. This would get my vote. And this does bring up one question I want to ask you, which is I hear you and other folks when they're talking about hat design will sometimes talk about getting past legal. And I asked somebody else about that, and they said, well, weapons, drugs and alcohol, and violence and blood will sometimes get you nixed through legal. But obviously, Clink's made a couple of, shall we say, 420 adjacent design, or definitely it's made some drinking design. So,
Yeah.
is drinking fair game? Will that be a problem with legal, in your opinion?
So two-part answer.
Okay.
first part is it always depends on who looks at it. So there's time. So okay, so you can't use one thing sometimes as a rule and be like, well, this one made it through because you can. I've had hats that have been approved, ordered, produced, and I went to go reorder them and get rejected.
Hmm.
I've also had hats that probably shouldn't have never got approved. So it goes two ways. So it depends on the person and the person reading it. So typically how it works is if it's a licensed logo, well, first things first is they'll run it through like a software to see if it uh, interferes with anyone's IP.
Okay.
I think they do like some sort of reverse image search. So if it's something that is a direct violation, it'll usually catch it if you're trying to use someone else's logo. Now, again, not they won't catch it every time, but for the most part, they should catch it. If it's a licensed logo, it has to go through an additional level of clearance, like the team in the league.
Okay.
But if it's something like this, then you're just getting at New Era.
Okay.
So in terms of like 420 stuff, drinking, shooting, weapons, guns, typically those are no go. We've seen some get passed through. I think if you're drinking or showing that you drink, but not in the act, it seems like it's okay. So
Okay.
like clinking glasses, it seems like it's a pass. I've done like a beer mug logo, stuff like that. That doesn't show the act of drinking, but it is drinking. So those seem like it gets through. This guy right here, he's not like we know he's drinking, but he's
Right.
not actively drinking.
I mean,
Right?
the title
Yeah,
is day drinking.
yeah. But they don't normally see they won't legal might not even see the title. They
Got
just get like the image and whatever you save the file as, right? Um, so like to anyone he could be drinking juice, whatever. I mean, like as adults, he's drinking, but like I'm just saying, like the person reading it and
It's
seeing
a
the logos.
it's a juice box. We know it's a
Yeah,
juice box.
yeah, exactly. So once you submit it, it goes through the reverse image search. They see if it hurts anyone's IP. I've had it spit back and them be like like I did something for my friend's band, and it's trademarked, and they're like, well,
Mm.
this is a thing, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm doing it for him. Okay, cool. You have to provide a logo release form, stuff like that. So normally they catch stuff. Sometimes they don't. Well, for the most part, they do. And then there's things that will always get passed through that shouldn't have got passed through, and some things that should pass through that don't pass through. So
It it
I saw a lot of discourse with the artists talking because I think they changed, I think like the payment structure a little bit because before they were paying clinkers, and then if it got rejected, they wouldn't claw back the royalties. But I think now they're changing it so that like they're letting them know how many they sold, but then if it gets approved, then the royalties will come, which I think is more fair. But some some artists, want the money quicker. But
it it's talking about the approval. It sounds like if you grew up in a two-parent household, I always joke that you knew which parent to ask for which thing. So it depends on who's on the desk that day at New Era, maybe.
yeah. So I think it has to pass through their legal department, and some stuff passes through that shouldn't, and it'll get caught on the back end, and some stuff that should have made it will never see the light of day for whatever reason. I've had stuff like co-branded stuff that didn't get approved, and then I just waited a couple weeks, submitted it again, and got approved. So anyone's guess. But New Era, I love you. Number 2, camouflage. Win Studio. What are you thinking?
I like it. I like the detail. I like the mixed medium of we're getting something that's floral but also animal at the same time.
Mm,
So the line work, I would give A+.
yeah.
Part of me wishes that there was a little more contrast between the emblem and the background. But
Right.
on the other hand, I'm guessing the artist is probably, well, it's called camouflage, so it's the blending, but also the fact that it's, it's the plant is in a green environment, so it's all blending in. So I'm assuming that this color choice is very intentional on the part of the artist.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes it was a little more distinct, but I can totally see why they went the direction they went in.
I like the concept. The pun is cool. I almost just wish he just went the other way and just made this like brown, like because the owl is brown. It's made to look like trees anyway, naturally. I just wish he leaned that way. Because for me, like a green owl, whatever. Just lean into the what's real.
What I appreciated about it is the subtle way that you can see the volume of the whole head, even though the rest of the head isn't filled in.
Yeah,
your
yeah.
brain reads that there's an entire head there. So they could have possibly done it where it's just like eyes that are showing through a wall of foliage, but instead they're using the foliage here to give you the impression of a full head.
Yeah.
And I think that's very clever. And I think the line work, like I said, I give it an A+. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be interested to see this on like a tan or like a grayish, brownish colorway. That'd be cool. But yeah, it's a cool concept for sure. Good job, Win. All right. Number 3, marine life. Raphael. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a creature we don't see. So one of the things I was going through and looking at some of the old clinks is there's certain, animals and birds and things like that get used a lot. And I, as a hat collector, I personally really enjoy having something that I've never seen before or a different thing. I think there might have been one clink that had a seahorse, but I think it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's kind of a pushback nowadays against putting things in a circle. I guess that if there's one criticism here is that maybe the oval, the circle is a little bit too confining, but I like how the yellow of the seahorse stands out. And I like the coral. Part of me maybe wishes that they'd used it some different colors, but as I understand it, the designer only gets to use 6 colors in an emblem. Is that correct?
I believe it's up to 7 now.
7.
But don't quote me.
they have to work within those parameters. But I like this. This will also get my vote. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you with the circle. I mean, that's a simple fix. You just move the seahorse to the side, up a little bit, have them break the plane a little bit. Yeah, quick check. I don't see any seahorses on the Clink site, unfortunately. I do remember like last year, I think Donovan was involved with one where it looked like it was the seahorse, but the one that made out of leaves almost. That one is one of the ones. Like you alluded to it earlier, where these artists, they make stuff that's worthy of being made for hats, but there's just so many of them, so many designs, that's just some stuff gets left on the chopping room floor.
And this is one of the things where I'm sad that Clink no longer does the t-shirts. And I know there were some issues with the t-shirts, but I bought 3 of them before they stopped making them. There are some emblems that I look at and I go, I don't know if I'd wear that on a hat, but I would absolutely wear that on a t-shirt. Yeah. And maybe I don't know how much bandwidth Casey has if he didn't want to go in that direction again. But if they did some of the stuff on t-shirts, like I would probably have to buy another coat closet or something.
I think the problem is, well, there's positive and negative. So the positive of that was they were using like an on-demand service, so that you wouldn't need to overstock and whatever. But the negative towards that is usually there is a little bit of a quality issue with having everything be printed on demand.
The biggest thing I noticed with it, and I bought 3 of them, is that they were printed on black. And if you had lighter colors in the emblem, the darkness of the material behind it kind of toned down the brightness of the colors in the emblem. So if the emblem had whites or yellows, they didn't shine the same way that they did on a hat. Yeah. And I don't know if they could have a choice where you could choose black or white or a different color base. But some of these emblems, like this one with its blues and its dark tones, it would look good on a lighter color t-shirt if that were a direction that Clink went in the future.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. I would almost want him to do it old school though, and just get like a screen, like just do it screen printing. I know it's more expensive and longer, and I don't even know where you would store all those screens because there's so many designs.
Right.
Like just to get like a nice screen print. But that's a whole other bag of worms. I'm sure he's not really excited about getting into, but yeah, good piece from Rafael. Number 4, Ghost Rider Sierra Gons. What are your thoughts here?
It's funny. It's got, a nice clean look. You can see the details pretty quickly at a glance. I don't have a lot of criticisms.
Yeah,
I personally am not as likely to buy a more cartoony style. That's just my own taste. And I know there's
right.
lots of other clinkers out there who love the cartoony style, but I like the sense of humor about it. To me, that's the strongest point, is it makes me smile. And, and that's something my spouse is a writer. So this might be something I get for him, and, he would probably get a kick out of it. So
Right. Yeah, this is a cool piece for sure. Yeah, I grew up watching that show, that Ghost Rider show too. So this is a cool piece, definitely. All right, number 5, Big Deal, CBS. What are your thoughts here?
there's a lot. I like it. And I like the yellows against the green, and I like the white against the green. I almost feel like there's maybe just a little bit too much going on.
Mm.
Like if I wore this on campus, you'd have to be 2-3 feet away from me to understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, the
Doesn't
God.
mean I wouldn't get it, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those ones where, somebody'd have to come up and be like, what is, oh, it's a giant dill. And the concept's great. I'm a huge fan of dill pickles. If by mistake I ever pop a sweet pickle in my mouth, you'll see me make a horrible face because I'm not a fan of sweet. So I am a dill person, and I like the little stars. I like the moon. Those details. I almost feel like the little white details that are right on the bottom. I almost wish that those were solid or darker color, because I feel like it's drawing the eye down to something that isn't really a core part of the story. So just from a color theory perspective, I'd actually mute the whites that are just above I don't know if that's supposed to be clouds or earth, but I would actually tone those down, because if I were if this were handed to me to pick the colors, I would want the eye tends to go to the brighter colors. So I'd want them to go up to the yellow that's coming out of the mouth. And I might even take the yellows that are the bottom and turn those into a more of a brown shade, so that your eye goes up instead of your eye going down, because the action's up. And that's where I would want the eye to go, is to go up.
yeah. You almost don't need the clouds. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a separator. You're using it to break the buildings, but you're right though. Like the color source is coming from like this pickle breath, right?
Yep.
Everything is being illuminated off that. Like, you see like the highlights off his chest, the back, but there's almost like too much orange. Um, I'm with you on that part. Um, I too love pickles. Um, that reminds me to check when Picklesburg is. It's a food festival in Pittsburgh
Oh, yeah.
once a year. Yeah, it's called Picklesburg.
That
And
sounds like something I should work into my road trips.
yeah, and they I mean, it's a food festival for pickles. So, and they just announced, um, the Pittsburgh Pirates announced that they're giving away a Mac Miller bobblehead, July 19th. So I'm kind of curious if those two things intersect, the Picklesburg and the Mac Miller thing. Because if so, I'm going to have to book a trip to Pittsburgh again.
We we stopped at Pittsburgh on our way up to the Toronto Lego show, because we went to a Penguins game, and I grew up rooting for the Red Wings. So the Red Wings just happened to be in Pittsburgh, and so we stayed on the west side of the river. We stayed basically within walking distance of Heinz Field.
Right.
And that's a baseball stadium I've driven past many times, but I've never stepped inside. So I'm up to about 15 Major League Baseball stadiums, about 15 NHL buildings. I would really love to go back there and take in a game, because it's got, the city of Pittsburgh is a beautiful backdrop, and there's all those bridges that are painted yellow.
Yeah. Speaking about colors, that's another city that does it right. Every team uses the black and yellow, and not enough cities do that. I think that's so cool about their.
Yeah, there was some speculation that the new Utah hockey, they might go with the purple, purple and white that the Jazz use. I think that would have looked good, frankly. We don't have, other than the LA Kings, we don't have a lot of NHL teams that use purple, And if Utah had gone with like a purple and white for both of their teams, which are owned by the same person, so that would have made sense as well.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a fun color choice personally.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But all right, good to see. This is actually, I think, a V2, the original Big Deal. Um,
Yes.
and then Chad actually released multiple colorways, so it's cool to see him back. But all right, number 6, Thunder Lizard, another, I think, V2 for Donnie. Came back with the Thunder Lizard. What are your thoughts on this one?
I love the line work. I love the detail, the curve of the neck, the tail kind of swinging around. I would go with different colors personally.
Yeah.
Like I actually heard him talking about this design in a stream, and I thought that was a mountain, but it's supposed to be like lightning. And to me, that's not it. As a casual observer, that was not clear at all. So I guess
Yeah.
if I would say if you want it to be understood as lightning, it probably needs to be brightened up to more of a yellow color. I mean, lightning in the real world is really white, but in cartoon world, lightning's always yellow. So I mean, if you want it to be red as lightning, I'd brighten that up a touch. Maybe even make the blues in the clouds, maybe even make that a touch darker, and then give a little bit more of a colored contrast so that the dino stands out. But the fact that he chose to go with the same bluish gray kind of tone, maybe that's what he wanted to go for. So maybe it's supposed to represent a stone color, like you're digging up the bones from the earth. But I see this as an example of, I love the line work. I would tweak the colors if it were handed to me to make changes. Those are my suggestions.
Yeah, I think part of it too is that, like, you're right though. The thunder makes it look like it's like Thunder Mountain. The name is a bit confusing too. Thunder the Lizard, and like off rip, you don't really think of dinosaurs as lizards, more like, I guess, reptiles, right? But
it comes from the Greek word for dinosaur. So the actual Greek origin of the word means thunder lizard. So that's why he's showing a dinosaur and titling it Thunder Lizard. It's a nod to the fact that the very word dinosaur comes from those two Greek words. So he's showing off his brain power right there.
There you go. See, it went over my head. I'm not so smart, but yeah, I don't know what I would change other than the stuff you talked about, like the yellow.
So
Yeah.
here's one other thing on the middle left, that the blue things that kind of come off they're kind of angling down. I'm not really sure what those things are, or do they really add? And it could be, I'd be curious to see this if those were taken out, because if you took out those like 3 sort of angled lines, you'd actually see the front leg and the curve a lot more obvious. I think it would stand out a little more clearly against backdrop.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to listen to this and be like, these people, they don't know what I'm trying to do.
So
but I mean, it's just my feedback. I feel bad because I'm not the artist, I'm not drawing this, and but I do wonder. I think the lizard's quite powerful looking, and I feel that some of the detail is actually drawing your eye away from a very nicely designed neck and leg, and I'd like that to stand out. I'd like to see that more prominently in the logo personally. Like the stuff on the bottom and the stuff off to the side, to me is almost a little distracting when you've got this really clear, cool thing in the center.
Yeah, I feel like he loses a little bit of detail in the face too. It's like the face is just like an eye with a mouth. I don't know how I would change it though. Like, that's the problem when it's almost like a silhouette, right?
Yeah. This is one creature. I don't think we've ever gotten a Nessie. So like the Loch Ness Monster. I don't think we've ever gotten that in a Clink hat. So we've had a couple of T-Rexes and other types of dinosaurs.
Dragons, yeah, but not quite a Nessie, yeah.
Yeah, we could go. I wouldn't mind seeing a Nessie someday. Like, I don't know if somebody could work a pun into a Loch Ness Monster hat, but
I'm sure they could.
That'd probably get my $1.
Yeah. But all right, Don. It's good to see his evolution too, like as an artist, as someone who went from like concepts and then like not having enough clinkers keep up with his concepts, and him just being like, screw it, like I'm gonna just go. And I saw this week his wife bought him an iPad, so he's gonna be drawing more, getting an iPad and some paper. So it was cool to see him kind of evolve.
And
But
it's great to have family support too. I mean, so like I mentioned that, my spouse got me these color theory books. And so it's one of those things where sometimes, if you're a creative person, what you make is sometimes isn't liked by other people. And I've bumped into that myself, but it's great to have a spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, that says, you've got good ideas, keep working at it. Cause it's can be a very mentally tough thing. So if you, especially when it's your creative work and it just doesn't, vibe with somebody, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means that people have different tastes, and it's frustrating when you love a thing and other people, it isn't to someone else's taste, but it's great to have that support from the people around you.
Yeah, that's one thing too. It's like I'll be really passionate about the stuff I like and the stuff I don't like and whatever, but I'll never fault someone for liking something I don't like. Like you mentioned, you like the landscapes. I'm like, okay. It doesn't make me think any more or less. Whatever. It's
Don't
just how
hate
you
me.
like it. Yeah. Me that stuff. I'll never like let that stuff kind of divide and separate. It's just like, okay, you like landscapes, cool. I mean, there's a head for every hat, really.
Yeah.
So, number 7, fruit bat. What are your thoughts here?
I'm not in love with it. Sorry, 14.8. If you watch this, I like the idea of trying to get the fruit and the kind of watermelon lines that you've got going on there, but it's a little, I don't know, scary, but not in a Halloween kind of scary way. I don't know.
See, to me, I almost see this. He almost looks like a Venus flytrap to me.
Oh,
and it kind of takes away a little bit from the fruit bat idea a little bit. Does that make
okay,
sense?
I could see that.
Yeah, like his ears is kind of like the little pods for the Venus flytrap. I don't know if that's what he meant. The problem with his stuff is this stuff always will look better embroidered.
Yeah.
So like he kind of I'll show you one of these. Like I was working on one of these hats for my photographer friend who had a very flat logo, but the way we digitized it, it completely changed the look of the logo.
Yes, it's gorgeous.
So that's the issue with 14.8 stuff.
Yep.
Is that it will look really boring. Boring is not the right word.
Simple.
But it's flat. It's flat.
Yeah.
Right. So you won't get to see the ridges and the different musculatures and the different textures of his stuff. And for people that are not like privy to his work and you're just voting, you have 5 seconds to vote, it might not vote well. I don't know how he's going to combat that, but
and another example.
Go ahead.
Another example, I wore the space between hat, which is like the two angels kneeling and the wings come up, and the stitching, if you just looked at a flat 2-dimensional picture, you're kind of like, well, okay, that's pretty, or that's nice. Yeah. But when you see it stitched, you can actually see like the lines in the wings, and you can see them build up the thickness on the figures. And that's the one thing that even in the pre-orders, we're just going off the flat art. And there have definitely been times where I passed on a hat, and then when it came in and they had the overstock, and I've seen the final stitch product, I'm like, oh no, I have to get that one.
Yeah. And it's good to see that. I think he had 2 hats that went through to pre-order, so it's good to see him kind of finally break that streak. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of his work. I just worry for him sometimes that like people won't get to appreciate it off the mock-up. So hopefully he'll get more stuff put into production and people will be they can see the vision more. Like I can see this embroidering real well, but I can also unfortunately see it not voting well. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So good job. 14.8. Number 8, Guarded by Milos. What are your thoughts there?
I'm a big fan of almost everything Milos does. My hat yesterday was the Fallen Titan, which is by him, so I'm a big fan of his work. I'd love to see it on a different hat base color. Mm-hmm. I feel that putting the 2-tone gray shield up against another shade of gray is almost a little bit too much close. He may have played around with it on different bases, but I think for me, I would be curious to see how it would look. What if you put this might sound crazy, but what if you put this on a pink base and then you'd have the red against the pink, and then you have the grays also against the pink base, I think it would actually look fantastic.
Yeah,
But overall, I'm fine with the you know the guarded, the cross swords. It's a clean look. It would read good from a distance, which is something I value personally.
for sure. I'm with you. I think the color choices, two color choices that potentially don't let this logo kind of be like the star. One is the silver shield on the gray hat, not enough contrast there, and then I think the gray, the gold and the yellow kind of work against
Mm.
the gray a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what color he would have done instead. I'm not sure. I would need to really go and play with it in like Photoshop or Illustrator to kind of. But I just feel like the highlight color of the yellow and the gold don't really work well on the gray.
And
Yeah.
this is one where, I mean, you and I haven't talked about it, but I've seen you talk about it on other shows, under visors and that sort of thing. And I'll be honest that as a hat buyer and a hat collector, I pay very little attention to under visors. Like that almost never impacts my choice. I
Hmm.
think here that having that bit of red to echo the red in the heart, I think that's actually a good choice. So I'm bringing it
Yeah.
up to complement it. Like normally I
Yeah.
don't think about the under visor color, but I think using that sort of heart, that rose red, was a smart choice here.
Yeah. I'm super boring and old school when it comes to undervisors. I love green and gray. 90% of the stuff I do will be a gray or green undervisor. Red is good too. I like orange, red, blue. I'll do, but for the most part, I like to stick to green and gray, kind of just paying homage to like the retro baseball hat. That's kind of the reasoning behind it. Um, but yeah, that's my thing. But the problem with that is if you do the gray hat, you almost have to do a green, and then you're kind of pigeonholing yourself. But
Yeah.
that's
Now
part of
the
part of it.
the sword that uses the white or the silver, I mean, would Clink make that if the artist had said like they wanted to use metallic threads in the sword to give it more of a metallic shine?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And then there's two, like you could go like metallic silver on one side and metallic pewter on the other side. Uh, so you could even do two shades of like a silver
I
metallic.
will say that as a consumer buyer, I would love to see a little bit more metallics in Clink hats.
Mhm.
I have been scarfing up NHL hats that are coming out now that it's back to new era where they're
Yeah,
using some of the metallics. There's some NHL logos that just look so good in the light.
mhm.
And some of the companies are just running wild with these metallics. And I'm here saying, click into my shopping cart.
That was one thing when I dropped my first, I guess my first package to him when they told me like, hey, we'd like you to design some. His first feedback was, "Oh, there's a lot of metallics." I was like, okay, I mean, I just designed what I wanted to design, so um, we'll see. And with Taylor there too, you're gonna see more metallics. I think Taylor. Um, we'll get to that a little bit later. Actually, today actually we'll talk about it later today. So I don't want to bury the lead. Number 9, Ice Aussies. Speaking of hockey, as a hockey fan, you know um, how successful the Aussies have been at hockey. So, what's your first thoughts on? Like, that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, oh, Aussies play hockey. Okay, cool.
Hey, we had a real NHL game be played down under.
Well,
I was lucky enough to go to Australia about 7 years ago. I have nothing but nice things to say. The Aussies were super kind and super great people. I went to a real Australian rugby match and it was
right.
fantastic. Um, I was warned though that not to assume that the kangaroos are warm and fuzzy, that they actually can kick you and cause lots of damage. So
Yeah,
they would make great hockey players. I mean, talk about, they wouldn't body check. They could probably just foot check you and
kick
knock
you.
you all the way across the ice. So um, the only thing I would say is, instead, I mean, I like the little motif here, the little detail of, instead of it being a traditional hockey stick, it's actually a boomerang. That's a very clever combination of, a sport but also a reference. And so that's really fun. Using the old school goalie mask, that's really fun as well. The only thing I'd say is that is it supposed to be a puck, because it looks too thin to me. If it's
Yeah,
supposed to, it's either too wide and too thin, I would say as a lifelong hockey player, it needs to be a little more taller and a little more not as wide, so a little more puck shaped. That's really my only criticism here. And I'm not wild about the base color, and I'm wearing this color here, which is pretty close. So I like the color, so it's not a criticism, but I think it would actually be better with a complementary brown tanned color as the base. That's just my inkling. I'd love to see it on a couple of different base colors, but I'm not sure that the aquamarine kind of turquoise color is doing much for the rest of the design.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's hilarious that they made the boomerang into a stick. I think that's a cool thing. Puck needs some work. Looks like a Connect 4 piece to me.
Yes.
I mean, definitely anyone from Australia not gonna know the difference, but most clinkers probably won't even notice the difference. But yeah, the puck is a little off, which is easy fix.
Yeah.
This stance would never be used in hockey, but I mean that's part of the fun in it. He's got more of like a lizard tail than like a kangaroo tail. It'd be kind of cool to see maybe like the tail, because I know they use the tail to balance when they kick you. So it'd be cool to kind of see that, that pose. Like maybe he's on his tail, but shooting, as opposed to this kind of like, he's jumping with his like crotch first towards you.
Yeah.
But it is nitpicking, right? But
yeah. If he were to redo it with a totally different stance, if the kangaroo were upright, he could have fun with the pouch. So he could have the pouch and maybe have something sticking out of the pouch, or I don't know what you would have sticking out of the pouch, but you could work that in. So if it were a kangaroo that's upright with the arms out and then using the boomerang, I love the boomerang, keep that, but you could actually have had maybe a wrinkle using the pouch as have something poking out from there. That'd be kind of fun too.
Yeah. I almost feel like the mask is almost too much. It almost looks like it's part of his face. I think it'd be more funny if it was like the mask was almost hanging off of him. But you could still see just the force of the shot made the mask swing almost. Okay. And anyone who knows hockey, that's a goalie. The goalie's not shooting really, so
correct.
You can just change that to like a helmet maybe as opposed to a mask. But it's a cool attempt. But then it kind of reads as like, hey, has this guy even played hockey before? Because number one, Aussies don't play hockey.
Yeah, well, they do play field hockey, and so maybe that's some of what's going on. But field hockey's played with a ball, so maybe that's why the puck looks a little odd to us, North Americans. But the other thing I'd say about it's a player wearing a goalie mask, and if you've played hockey, that the people who shoot don't wear that kind of mask. But I'll say, like, every once in a while I'll watch the show and I'll hear people talk about how a design isn't 100% realistic. And as a buyer, I don't care about that. Like, I know that they're taking liberties with the concept, and it doesn't, like, to me as a hockey player, I would still get this, even though it's a goalie mask on a shooter. That wouldn't stop me from, because I know it's kind of cartoonish and we're having fun with it. It doesn't have to be 100% literal. I mean, for crying out loud, he's using a boomerang as a hockey stick, right? So the fact that he's wearing the wrong kind of mask, that doesn't bother me personally.
That's fair. And it's a kangaroo, for God's sakes.
That's right. It's a kangaroo playing hockey.
We say these things to nitpick, but we also, for me, I don't really care at the end of the day. But we say it to say educational purposes. It's not meant to be personal. But yeah, for sure, 100%. All right. Number 10, death metal. I believe we've seen a version of this, maybe not, but Soundwaves and Josh Roll's death metal. What are your thoughts?
It's probably not for me. I like the concept. I think the title is excellent, and I think that there's a hat to be done. In fact, the more that I think about it, I'm kind of amazed that we haven't had a Clink hat that uses the death metal as a theme. Because like thrash metal and like that's a real subject area. I mean, there's like a long history of death metal, thrash metal, metal bands. It's kind of surprising we haven't seen, I don't know, more entries with this topic. As a critique, I would just say, to me, I value hats that you can read from 10 feet, and from 10 feet, this is going to look mushy. So it's probably not the kind of one that I'm going to jump up and down over, but you know, there's all kinds of tastes out there, and I'm sure lots of other people would be excited about this.
Yeah. I love the little like hand in like coming out of like the
Yes.
thing. That's rad. Um, I'm with you too. I don't know how he would change it. Maybe just you wouldn't maybe necessarily need all that stuff behind him. Just let him be the main subject matter. I do love the scythe incorporated into the guitar. I think that's rad. I don't know if I love the bottom jaw face kind of thing. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I would say if you lost the details behind it and had a little more color contrast with the backdrop. So like if it were a lighter shade of gray, the dark gray jacket would then stand out a lot more clearly. And you know, you could actually see the silhouette. To me, if we think about silhouette, the silhouette's really buried in this one. And as much as I like the, you know, the hand sticking up, that also kind of draws your eye. So you're not noticing the guitarist. For me as a hat collector, I would almost just rather just see the guitarist and the guitar and nothing else. Like that would be a powerful silhouette. It would stand out. You could read it. You could understand it at a glance. That would make it more attractive to me personally.
Even for me, like I'm thinking, I would almost rather have just this hand be the front logo, and like a simplified silhouetted version of this be a side patch, and then just use like one of those death metal fonts and just write the Clink Room or something.
Ooh, I like that.
Use that as like the patch, kind of like, you know, like just kind of simplified, almost silhouette. And you can keep the shape of it, and then just go like the Clink Room in like this death metal font, and just have and have the hand here maximum detail. You capture that like death metal theme, you know, dead.
You could put a tombstone to the side or behind it potentially, and maybe even have like on the tombstone just say just the word metal or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But I like the theme. I just think this is like a lot to just like, you know, it's a lot, but
it's a fun idea. So I think there's a hat to be made here. I'm not sure that this is quite there yet. I think it could be refined.
Yeah. Or even just the flying guitar, the guitar with the scythe. You know, maybe just get rid of the characters or whatever. Just nail it. Like kind of like ray gun. How this ray gun is just an object. You know.
Yeah. Or even the guitar could be almost at the exact same angle that it is. Make it a little bit bigger, and then just have the bony hand underneath it like this. That would read really well. I mean, you could just look at it and go, "Oh, it's guitar and like the bony hand sticking up from the grave." I think that would be grab your attention a lot more. There's because you kind of have to really look at this and take your time to pick out the details. And I think what you want is something that you're wearing it out in public, and somebody's like, "Dude, that's death metal. That's an awesome hat." Like at least that's what I want. You know, if I'm going to wear it out, I want someone to just glance at it and go, "Oh, that's really cool." You know?
Yeah. Another way to going back to the guitar thing, have it kind of like, you know how the Braves wear that huge tomahawk?
Yes.
Just the tomahawk. So you have it like that, and then taking your hand idea, stick that as a sticker on the guitar, and then you can have different symbols like CR in death metal, you know, almost like that lightning font or whatever. You can have different stickers on the guitar because they stick stickers on the guitar, but then you just have that object. Now you got me thinking like how to do objects now. This is cool.
So,
yeah. But yeah.
And I'm not just making that up about the stranger coming up. I was on a trip to Charleston about a month ago, and I was wearing the Clink Room, the blue anglerfish that just came out with the orange version, but I was wearing the blue version. And a woman came over from another table of 8, and she just said, "I need to know where you got that hat. That hat is so cool." And I called it up on the Overstock, and unfortunately, like all but like size 8 were sold out. But I'm like, here's the place, you know, you check these out. You might see something that, you know, grabs you. And so literally strangers will ask me sometimes, "Where did you get that hat?" And so that's when, you know, like it's an awesome design.
Hell yeah. Most people will ask too, like, hey, what team is that? Like, this is assume it's professional.
Right.
Like, where'd you get that from? Yeah. But all right. Number 11, Point Pleasant Legend. Heather, what are your thoughts on this?
I like it. It's a good emblem that I feel is too dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see it in a little, like, I'd like to see the green in the wings be a little bit brighter. I understand, you know, I'm a big fan of, like, I grew up on the X-Files, so I like paranormal, UFO, mystery kind of stuff. So I love the subject. We, on our way up to Toronto last fall, where we went to Pittsburgh and saw the hockey game, we actually stopped in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and stood and took a picture next to the Mothman statue. So, like, I'm all in on this topic. I just feel like the color, either the base color could be a little bit different, or the color, because I feel like the work she's put in on the lines is a little bit lost. Like, you'd have to, like, get up real close and look at it, and you go, oh yeah, I can see these little details in the wings. And I know that the Mothman was seen at night, and she's trying to capture that element of it, but I just wish it was a little more clear than it is presently in the color contrast.
Yeah. There's already one Mothman. I think it was Raphael did it. So it's like, I always think back, like, okay, if you want to do, and I'm not trying to suggest that she can't do it or she shouldn't do it, but like, if you're gonna do it, it needs to be better than the first one. Like, it's gotta, like, be like, okay, if you're gonna take a stab at it, like, this is my stab at it, you know. So it's cool. To me, I don't know if it beats the original. That's my only thing. Like, I have the original, so I don't know if I'm, like, motivated enough to want this one, you know. But it is a cool stab at it. I think the original was blue, this one's black. There are differences to it, but I don't know if the colors, I'm with you, I don't know if the colors help it that much. Like the greens and the dark blues, I don't know. But yeah, it's a cool attempt. Good job, Heather.
And I like her work. I bought a bunch of Heather hats. In fact, she and I just messaged, and I'm buying one of her hats, her recent ones, and I said, "Can you autograph the underbill?" And she's like, "Okay." So I'm waiting for that to show up. So sorry, Heather, if you're watching. I love the subject.
Yeah.
I wish we could see your line work a little bit better. That's my only disappointment with it, frankly, is I like the topic. It's just it's so dark. It's hard to see the work that you've put in.
My thing with Heather too is, like, it's cool to see her progression, and it's cool to see. I don't even think there's many people that can outwork her in terms of work rate. So it's good to see her kind of evolve and get better and more efficient. It's good to see her grow. Number 12, No Shrimps. Josh Foles. I believe he did this before. New colorway and some tweaks, but a good old mantis shrimp for you. But what's your thoughts on this?
I feel like the head of the shrimp should be a little bit thicker. I mean, shrimp, you know, they kind of classically are big, and then they get skinnier as the tail wraps around. Unless this is a specific, you mentioned a specific kind of shrimp, but I feel like the head, the top of it should be just a little bit wider, and the tail part should get just a little bit narrower. And so I usually don't have a lot to say about the line work, but here I wouldn't mind seeing some tweaks on the line work.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is a mantis shrimp. So basically, they look like this.
Okay.
So I would basically, these things can actually punch so fast that I think they heat up the water around, like, they create so much kinetic energy because they eat, like, mollusks and oysters and clams and stuff like that. So they actually punch and they create so much force that apparently there's, like, water vapor. It's so hot.
Look how colorful it is.
Yeah. So I pulled up. So I think he based it on this red one.
Okay.
But I almost would wish he based it on this one. And, you know, see how, like, they're all black and blue and stuff?
Yeah.
I would just use that kind of color to infer that he's been beat up a little bit. Like, just with the bruises and stuff like that.
There's a lot of potential to make this beautiful. And with, you know, I mean, even the one that was red, the first picture there had, like, kind of green around the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool. And I don't think, maybe he's used all 6 colors here, but it seems like maybe there's room for one more color. I don't know.
Yeah, I would almost wish he changed, like, because like this face is so cool. These arms are so cool. I almost wish he just changed the pose a little bit. So like get the head like around here, get his hands up to like a real like boxing pose as a like this isn't really like a good boxing pose, but
Yeah.
get it, yeah, like, get it to like a real or even like an old school like the old school like put your dukes up. Um and then just use his like tail and stuff. Like you know how, like all that the tail, all that stuff was like all these like different colors. Kind of just build that into like maybe he's wearing a robe, like a boxing robe, but that looks like a tail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The old if you've never seen the movie Cinderella Man and you're a fan of sports, it's a great movie and it's got great boxing action and highly recommend it. But they used to come out with I don't know if they still do, but they used to wear the big robes and they'd have the big shorts. The one thing that strikes me is that these in the picture, these shrimp have all these horizontal lines through their midsection, and when I was looking at the hat art, I thought he was just giving the guy some ripped abs, but now that I actually see the actual shrimp, I don't know if he's trying to echo all the lines that you see in the real shrimp there, but
Oh, right.
he could almost extend those lines out a little bit more because right now it reads to me as abs. I'm like, wow, this
Mhm.
shrimp really works out a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
Because they
don't know
oh,
about
go
the shorts. Like the shorts kind of have the little tiny legs poking through.
ahead.
I would like maybe to see the shorts be shorter. Like they almost look like sweatpants on a if
Yeah,
a shrimp could wear sweatpants.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this
Maybe
the thing is this pose. Again, we have to suspend belief, but like this pose is you'd never see them on that. They're always like this.
yeah.
Yeah, so
It's
you know
it's a cartoon representation.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, like this pose almost with he's like kind of got like the rope. They are too. I don't mean to sound so fat, but they are delicious too. It's like shrimp's shell, but then the meat here is like lobster tail meat.
I don't know.
Delicious. You don't eat none of this part though.
I
But
don't think I've ever had one of these. Now I'm gonna have to go out and get some.
yeah, they're hard to get. I had them when I was in Thailand and Vietnam, but they're like
Okay.
ocean. But yeah, mantis shrimp. Um, yeah,
Now
but
in
yeah,
in North America, when you go to an Asian restaurant, sometimes they'll have that like live. They'll have the lobster in tanks right out front where you come in. Do they do that when you're overseas? Do they have like you can pick out which seafood you're going to eat?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So in Thailand, in Phuket, we went to like this like fish market, and you can buy whatever fish you negotiate, and you can actually take the fish and the seafood to a restaurant and pay a fee, and then they will just cook that. It's amazing. We also had an experience where I was in Halong Bay, and we rented a boat, and a fishing boat pulled up to our boat while we were on the water, and they had sold us the catch. That like the things we ate never touched land. It was crazy. So they sold it to us, and then we gave the stuff to the people who were doing the boat tour, and they cooked it on the boat,
Yep.
and we ate it there. So it was like mantis shrimp, crabs, fish. It was like fresh, never touched land. They actually pulled up once. My friend, my one of my best friends, Albert, he married into a Vietnamese family, so we were in Vietnam, and the her family is like local to there, and like don't give us no tourist prices, and then they fought about the prices, and they're like, all right, fine, whatever. So they left, they pulled away on their boat, and they came back and pulled up again. But yeah, good times, good times. But yeah, mantis shrimp, delicious to eat, but cool boxers. They fight and stuff. So I follow a couple of TikTokers that have mantis shrimps, and they feed them and whatever. You learn
So
all about them, but
if we're brainstorming, there's also that whole thing of like if you were to take this in a more of a Thai direction, there's the whole Thai kickboxing kind of
yeah,
stuff
Muay Thai,
too, where that's a really big part of the culture. Um,
100%.
I don't know if Josh would want to. He'd have to totally redo it, but if he wanted to bring in some Thai elements, you could. So one of the things I noticed going through some of the old Clink designs is that we have different, animals and people that are featured on the front of the hats, but there's also different subcultures. And so, Latin American, there's a decent number of hockey culture, but European and different parts of the world. But I don't know that we've ever had a really. We have a lot of Japanese inspired and Chinese inspired hats, but I don't know that we've really had a good Thai hat so
I don't
far.
think so. I
So
don't think so.
that's fertile ground.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, that fish market too was next to this huge boxing arena ring that you can just go watch locals, and they would encourage regular people to go and fight. So you could see regular people fight in Thailand with each other. I think you just gamble for like 2 liters of alcohol. My other friend Matt's done that. Crazy.
In graduate school, one of my colleagues was studying Southeast Asian politics, and so Thailand was one of his countries. And he would come to school in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's hot, with long sleeve T-shirts all the time. And I'm like, why is he wearing long sleeve T-shirts? It's 85 out today.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out that he was doing fighting outside of class here in Atlanta because he had started doing it in Thailand when he was over there. But he had all of these bruises all up and down his arms from the fighting, and he didn't want the faculty to know that he was also doing fighting as a side thing. And so that nobody would ask questions, he would just be hot all the time in class. He'd wear these long sleeves. And then eventually he goes back to Thailand, and he still sparred for, into his 30s. He was still doing it. So he just loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. All right, moving forward. Final cadence, 14/8.
Okay, now I feel like I can make it up to 14/8 because I love this. This is A+. Color contrast. You can read it from 10 feet away. I love the color choices. I don't care, what Leon says. 14/8, don't change anything. It's perfect. We should vote it in.
I don't want him to change. I want people to be more aware of his work, right?
It's gorgeous. It's great.
Yeah, I like his work. I like it. I don't mind his work at all. I think his work is great. I worry that people don't understand it. That's all. Like they don't see the final vision like that, more like that we see. That's all.
The only thing I would say is that the music notes in the Little Death could be brightened up just a touch. Maybe not white, but just a little bit brighter.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious, right? Music note, dead. Like, yeah, I like it.
No coda. That's it.
I like this one a lot. Good job. All right, number 14, electric X-ray. What are your thoughts here?
I've seen, so Milos put this up on Instagram a couple days ago, so I had a chance to see it earlier. It's very detailed. My only thing is I'm just concerned how well would it stitch. There's so many fine lines, and I'm a big fan of Milos's work, and I own a number of his hats. So like, and some of its hats stitch better than I would have guessed. I'm hoping that this would stitch better than what I would expect, but I'm just a little bit concerned about all those fine, detailed lines in there. That's my only real reservation, I think.
Yeah. He just has sea serpents go through too, and that's kind of almost not quite the same vein, but he redid this one. I think his original electric X-ray. I think he did it for Letterform Week. I could be wrong, and it never went through. That was another one that
I like that.
Definitely,
I voted for that one.
Yeah, it definitely deserved to go through.
The electric bolts are maybe not as clear to, if people looked at this, if they didn't read the title, they might not understand that those are electric bolts. It's my only, and again, I don't want to necessarily say that you have to go all cartoony and it has to look like a lightning bolt, but it could perhaps clarify that that's electricity coming off of them. I'm not sure that all viewers are going to read it to be electricity.
Yeah. Would you flip the outline? So make the outline of the bolt black and then make the fill the white color. So when it glows, it actually glows real white.
Yeah, I'd like to see it that way. That's an interesting, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that's potentially what I would do. Clink's done a bunch of X-ray stuff, so I'm not as worried about the details. I think his would embroider really good.
How do you feel about the big like stylized bolt in the center that it's wrapped around. I feel that there's like this dichotomy, maybe it's intentional, but dichotomy between the very detailed line work of the fish, of the eel, but then the very like sort of chunky version of the lightning bolt. And I don't know.
Yeah, I almost feel like you don't need it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think you
Yeah.
could take the lightning bolt out and it would read better.
Yeah, but if you do it, I almost feel like it needs to do a better job of feeling like it's wrapping around it.
Yeah.
Right now, it just feels like it's stabbed through. So I would get like the portion here, like this portion of it. I would almost have it over the thing, and then him wrapping, like he's still wrapping through it, but almost as if like this part had to go under this like big piece, almost. If that makes any sense?
Yeah, like in the medical world, they use a symbol, and I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's called like something like the trapezus or something, and it's like it's got the pole and the snakes like wrapped around it.
Right.
If I understand you correctly, you're saying it needs to be maybe a little tighter, like the wrapping has to look a little bit more tighter around the lightning bolt.
Yeah, essentially like because it's wrapping around, and then I almost would want to see it just go like around it almost, like it has to travel like under. I don't know who's saying what. Yeah,
I think this is an example of a design where maybe less is a little bit more. Like take that lightning bolt out, and clarify the lightning coming off of it. I think the eel is beautiful. I think the line work's excellent.
Yeah, it's a great piece. And then like these like this little like electrical current, it almost replaces the fins almost, you know.
Yep.
It almost looked like fins, but yeah, it's definitely a cool piece. Number 16. Oh, I'm gonna have to fix those numbers in post, but Temptation by Win. What are your thoughts here?
It's very mysterious. Like you know, it takes a minute. So I will say this is usually I like a strong silhouette, and this is not in my normal spot, but I like this. This is definitely one though where you want to pause and look into it a little bit more, because you're kind of like you're seeing through a bat-shaped window to a vampiress. I'm assuming it's female, based on the eyelashes and the lip gloss, but it has an element of mystery, which I like, an element of beauty, an element of danger. So I feel like there's some cool things going on here, and it's titled Temptation, which makes me think, you know, that there's a kind of sexual allure, but also a temptation of like danger, maybe a touch of eroticism. It's a cool concept. The one thing I would say is I wish that the burgundy that's in the edge of the wingtips was a different color than the red in her hair. I wish there was more of a color differentiation between the bat shape and her hair color. But maybe that's nitpicking. But
yeah,
do you think the blood would get dinged by legal? The blood on the lips?
Not really, because it's just red lips.
Okay.
I feel like the red to me should be used a little bit more sparingly. Like if it was just red in the eyes and the lips, I think it would be pretty cool. There's no actual blood. I almost wish he just got rid of the silhouette. Just give me the cool, sexy vampire lady. Like cool, sexy vampire lady. We don't even see that often, you know.
No, we don't.
Right. Really flowy hair, you know, maybe a cool collar, something like that. But it's drawn like she's drawn so well that it's like, damn.
Yes.
I almost wish she didn't cut her off like that.
Right. We
want to see. To me, the bat doesn't add anything to the.
No, and in fact, if anything, the bat makes me go into the mindset of, is it Batman, right? But this is really more vampire-ish. So changing the portal through which we see the figure, I agree. Like, I don't know that the bat shape adds that much, and maybe it even distracts. But I will say, the one thing I would say about the bat window or the bat glass here is that we can't see very much of her. So there's this element of curiosity, like, ooh, wonder what's on the other side. It's like the original Alien movie where you never get a clear picture of the alien. You only get like little snippets, or the lighting's low, and it just makes you go, what am I not seeing? And this is one of the I think very thoughtful things about this design is it has this element of the unknown that's in there.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone's ever really done a design that's just straight like let's just do a strip and almost make it like a comic strip and just have it filled.
That's
And
a
I
good
think
point.
that could be like a cool like little piece too.
As much as recent crits have talked about like people are bored with logos in a circle, let's see I would love to see a couple comic strip style things where they use like the kind of off colors of like 80s 90s comics,
Mhm.
like the original Star Wars comics that came out. Like there were some wild colors that were used in those things. I'd love to see maybe even this, like, redone in like a letterbox kind of comic book strip, even with a
Yeah.
couple of lines coming down, like she's spilling across multiple panels in a comic strip. That would look badass.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you're allowed to say it. You're allowed to say it. All right. All right, moving forward. All right, so I found 15 Ink Park, the cut above. I think this is almost like a part two. He had an ice skating lobster chef, I think, right? He had the little knife. He was skating. I think he had a lobster in his hand. But this is almost like a part two. What are your thoughts here?
I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe I'm not quite getting it. So we've got bone shaped handles and there's a spot of blood. And the chef's hat looks to me almost like it's turning into a cloud or even like a giant piece of popcorn. So is it supposed to be like a cut above, like going up into the air? I don't know if I'm missing the reference here.
Oh yeah, cut above. So he's in the sky, maybe. Maybe like yeah, cut above. Maybe that's like a pun to it.
It could be. I'm missing the joke
Yeah.
or the reference. So I mean, it's the hat's fun,
Hmm.
but I'm not. I don't quite understand it. Is there? Did they include a description of what they're?
Yeah, let me see if he posted one. Uh, to me too, off rip, the blood is almost in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it would seem like it
Like
would be on the blade side, not the top of the dull side. Like if you're cutting with that end, that's bad.
yeah, or if there was blood from the hat, maybe that's not good either.
No. Or why would the hat be bleeding?
Yeah, took it off the head. All right, so he says cut above. Sometimes are just like a cool logo to all the chefs and cooks out there. Custom work design or custom new design for the Clink Room. So yeah, I think it's just what you said a little bit with the above and it being in the clouds. For me, it just looks like he's just trying to pay tribute to the chefs out there, which is cool. Which is
So if
cool.
I were to offer a suggestion, I would say blow up the chef hat, make it much bigger, and then put the cross knives on top of that. Like if you're trying to pay tribute to chefs, then make the cross things be on top of it, so it's like one emblem. I feel like because the hat's sitting on top, like it kind of feels like is what's the relationship between the
Yeah,
hat and if you just put it superimposed it on top, I think it would actually read more like a coat of arms, but with the chef's hat instead of like a shield. I think that would be pretty cool. And I'm guessing then that the blood drops are a reference to chefs nicking themselves while cooking. Like they sacrifice. It's
yeah,
hot in the kitchen, and you get sweaty, like you're cooking and but I think your point about putting the blood in a different spot of the knife makes sense too.
yeah. It's also a really low design. That's the problem with making it so narrow. You're forcing it down. I don't know what the solution is because the problem is if you put the knives behind the hat, you just lose the knives. Because if you're making it like a Jolly Roger style crossbat, because that's kind of like what I feel like he's kind of going for. That's why he was forced to push the knives down.
Okay.
You almost want to say fuck it and put the knives in front of the hat, and then that way you can just move the logo down and just expand. But
What if what if he brought the chef's hat down so that it's almost on the brim, but
mhm,
then the knives could like angle out on each side, maybe?
mhm,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. it's definitely a cool piece. I do like the way he made the knives, like the ridge and how it's sharpened on the bottom. I do like those little details. The knobs, the handles almost look like bones. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, he almost hid 3 Nike check marks here too, just to get pricey. Yeah, it's a cool piece. This just reminds me of wishing the other one got through, like his other chef hockey player guy. Man, that was so good. But Ink Park, good work. Cool colorway too. You don't really see this colorway.
You know what? I'd love to pitch to Casey is, if you go play in a softball or hockey tournament, they have the losers bracket.
Mhm.
If we got to nominate, or somehow there was a voting for designs that didn't make it through a vote, but we'd love to see them come back and get one more crack at it, like a
Yeah,
losers bracket kind of thing. Like once every 3 or 4 months, we'd be
yeah.
like, the ones that didn't make it, but we're going to give them one more shot. Maybe Casey'd be like, you guys, you just got to give up and move on or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's hard and
there,
fast. Yeah, like
the,
he's brought back stuff, and but there's definitely stuff that needs to I'm
this
with you there.
this Monday, the squid made out of dots. Like, I was so sad that I didn't get more votes. Like, I was like in love with that thing. I looked at the percentage and I'm like, no, I don't think it's gonna get made. So
Yeah, that one worked way better than the owl.
yeah,
But that was
agreed.
so cool, so cool. All right, moving forward, number 16. I am just missing numbers. No, that's right, because 16 was the one before. Wolf Bite, Brad Racing.
This I see the pixelization, which is cool. I'm not in love with the uh, the the tone of green and the dark purple. Like, to me, this is like, please don't take this the wrong way, but it's nails on a chalkboard for me. Like, I just these color combos, like, they rub me the wrong way. And I think, I also think that the purple is so dark you can't see the nice line work that he's done in the jaw
Yeah,
and the side of the face, and maybe a different color to go with that shade of green would let you see the work that the artist has done. I mean, this is the one thing I notice again and again. Some folks do just tremendous line work and then they just hide it from you with dark colors. So
yeah, yeah. The problem is that this is screaming for like a pop color, but
yeah,
the problem is the green is everywhere. That's already popping too much. So, like, I feel like the ears, the teeth is almost wanting to be like a white or something different. But because you already burned the green on the outline,
yeah.
you almost can't use it. So yeah, I'm with you. Um, the colors are working against it because the black is so close. The purple is almost no contrast. Um, I don't know if I love the styles. I feel like it's not mixing like fluid enough because you got like the pixelization, and then you got like the circuitry, and then you got like almost like a realistic wolf, and then he's kind of wearing almost those pixelated glasses. I don't know.
Let
It's
me
yeah,
let me pitch a completely different color palette.
sure.
The electronic lines that are coming off of the eye,
Hmm.
silver metallic,
Hmm.
to look like circuitry.
Yep.
And the same thing with on the right hand side as it becomes pixelated, something that reads more like electronic. I if I were God Emperor for a day and someone handed me this, I think it's a cool design, but I would completely do it in different colors, because I think you could even do it more in like a Tron kind of look, because you've kind of got
Okay.
those like Tron electrode things coming off. I would
Yeah,
love to see it in a radically different colorway personally, but
like the blues and the hot pinks and the almost purples. Yeah, yeah. I could see this doing well in black and red too, potentially,
ooh,
or one that's a lot of blues. So like keep your silver idea, but maybe on like a navy blue or a sky blue, and have sky blue navy with silver. I think they would look really good. Um, the Tron idea is pretty good. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't love this green with the purple on the black, but it is really good art though. It's cool.
yeah.
It's cool. I would love to see this in different colorways though. Moving forward, number 18, Riptide, RIP Tide. What are your thoughts here?
It's fun. I mean, surfboarding on a casket lid, and the pose of the figure's great, and the wave looks like it's made out of blood. Like, so there's a lot of, we like Halloween at our house. We go all out decorating. We have a 12-foot skeleton for the front yard and all that kind of fun stuff. So we like Halloween. This is fun. This is the kind of hat that would be part of my Halloween collection that I'd wear at that time of the year. So I like it. I'm not a huge purchaser of the more cartoonish style, but this has that sort of fun, cartoony vibe about it. So I like it.
Yeah. Couple small things. Whenever you see stuff like that, I always do like a quick finger toe check. I feel like on the left side he's missing a thumb, and he's got 3 toes on the left side. Right side he's got 4 toes, but then all his hands and his digits got 5. So I just would.
Skeletons sometimes lose a bone here or there. So
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But I saw Donnie talk about this one, and it would be a cool thing. You would rather. I know that Riptide, RIP Tide, makes sense with like a Grim Reaper, but if you're gonna do like a blood surfing thing, you almost would want to see it done on like a Dracula, like just Dracula on vacation would be kind of cool.
Yep, that's a good point. That's fair.
It'd be hilarious too, because if Dracula is in shorts or something, you make it seem like he has really pale legs, like a sunburn or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's like cool things you could do.
A moonburn because he can only surf at night.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but yeah,
I'll just make this note that as a Lego builder, because I do a lot of architecture, that now that I recreate like windows and doors, I notice things a normal person would never notice about windows and doors, because when I look at them, I'm thinking, well, how would I make this out of pieces of plastic? Your comment about the number of fingers, the number of toes is something I would never even notice as somebody who buys hats. Like I would just say, well, that's a foot or that's a hand. And my brain would just process that as, well, clearly that's a hand. I wouldn't count the number of digits. That just wouldn't even occur to me to do that. So it does tell you that like the things that you create. So you draw, and I build things out of Lego.
Oh, I don't draw at all.
Oh, you don't draw at all? Okay.
I'm terrible at drawing.
Okay. But when you're in a certain realm of creative process, you notice details that other people would just kind of gloss right over probably. So
yeah, the reason being is I've made so many hats, and I've had that like moment, like, damn, I missed this. So these are like things check off, like these are easy checks. So I'm more of a concept guy. So half of the company that I run, the Capologist, I run it with Tony Roth, who is an amazingly talented artist. Okay. I'm more so the idea guy. I'm feeding him, hey, we should do this, do this. So like part of my value is once he shows me stuff, I have to like look and break it down, like, hey, whatever. And most times it's like, yo, killed it, whatever. But for me, like one of the checks is like, okay, let's do a fingers and toes check. Like, all right, cool. Switch this pause. And he went to like animation school, so he's usually good with that kind of stuff anyway. But for me, it's just one of these natural things. Yeah, like right off rip, I noticed 3 toes, 4 toes, 5 fingers, missing thumb, like instantly.
What's an
but
extra?
Those are easily fixed.
I will say that for your company, one of the recent ones that you came out with was the ace of spades and the 4 hats that were the different baseball. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could have bought all 4 of them. I bought one, and I was like, oh, this is a really fun, playful design. I like it. So
yeah, thank you. And then another thing, I would change the location of the cross a little bit. I feel like the cross is in like a kind of a weird kind of spot, because if I'm imagining that the coffin, it's almost, the cross is upside down, I feel like, and it's in like in a weird kind of spot. But other than that,
would you move it slightly towards the front of the surf?
Yeah, the front, and flip it. Because I'm picturing him riding. If he's riding the coffin, I feel like the front would be the top of the coffin, not the back of the coffin. If that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, again, you have to suspend belief on certain things, and it would be interesting to see if they actually would run this, because I know that they did the Dracula duck, and they didn't allow a couple drips of blood on his face. So having someone ride a sea of blood, I would, but again, don't use that as the rule, right? Like if one can pass and one can't, I mean, that's normal too, right? But as a fan, I'd want to see what would happen.
The gigantic wave of blood here actually makes me think of the promo commercial for the movie The Shining, where the elevator door opens and there's just this wall of red liquid that comes out. Like, to me, that echoes that. And I was a little kid when The Shining came out. My parents didn't let me see it. They didn't take me to see it. But I remember as a child almost being traumatized by the promo on the TV screen. It was like all this blood. Right. I'm like, I don't know what's happening in this movie, The Shining, but it looks terrifying.
Exactly. And even like for her, like she was really smart. She used a red brim. So like I almost would wish that she would shift the design almost like this way and push it as low as you can get it. So to make it look like this is the water, which is the blood. So just small little aesthetics. But it's a cool concept. Riptide, get it right away. It's fun. Almost wish he had a tongue too, just hanging out like whatever. But yeah, cool piece. Number 19, Puff Puff Sip. All right, there you go.
Here's our test. Here's our legal test for the week.
Some would wonder, like, why even put it up? But I think part of him is like just figuring out what votes well.
I mean, it's a dog.
I do not know if this will pass through.
It's a dog, not a person. So who knows? Maybe dogs are allowed to drink and smoke. We don't know.
Right. It's legal in most states. I'm not against it. I'm curious to see whether or not it passes through. Yeah, good old boxer, American Bulldog.
I think the glasses are great. They clearly read the mirrored sunglasses, the stereotypical American cops would wear. The colors are surprising, and I like them. Like the kind of yellow orangey in the beverage, and then they have kind of like that Florida shirt style going on with the dog, and they've got that spot of red and green and blue. I mean, they've maxed out, I think, on their 7 colors, maybe even gone over. I don't know. And maybe there's 8 colors here, but I think it's a clever use, because if we took all the color off of that shirt, jacket, whatever it is that the dog's wearing, it would look okay. But by putting those little color decals on there, it certainly adds to it.
Yeah. It'd be hilarious too if they could turn like those ice cubes into like bone shaped ice or something. Yeah, hey, if this passes through, my color me surprised, but we'll see. It might vote real well too. Who doesn't like a good American Bulldog? Yeah, cool piece. TDE Griza. I'm not even sure if I'm familiar with their work. TDE Griza.
I can't say that I've seen that username before. So
yeah, Thomas V. de Griza. Oh, they were the one that did the bulldog with the air freshener in its butt.
Yes, I remember.
Apparently, okay. So this is his dog. Okay, it's an English bulldog. Okay, paying homage to his bulldog that passed away. That's cool, man.
This hat reminds me of when they go and interview like somebody who's 99 and they're ready to turn 100, and it's like this old person, and they're like, well, I drink I drink a glass of wine and smoke a cigarette every day, and it hasn't killed me yet. Exactly. Like that's what this dog looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Screenwriter, director. Okay, cool. The writer of Killing Castro. Good stuff, Thomas. All right. Well, we'll see. All right, last one. Neon Paradise, Raphael.
It's cool.
I like it.
I like the very of the neon design. So I bought the neon beer glasses that were clinking together. I don't know, that came out about a year and a half ago. I bought that neon one. I like it. I like one of the things I like about these neon designs is that the line work is very, very distinct. I think using black as a backdrop color makes the yellows and stuff appear a little brighter. It's always tricky trying to recreate neon because, of course, neon is just like this light quality. It's just really challenging, I think, to get that kind of feel with fabric and thread. But I like it.
Yeah, this is almost like a different style of neon too. We've seen a couple, so like I'm actually wearing one of the first neon designs, which is like a very simplistic, almost like how Raphael did it, but I found his is like a little bit thinner. And then we had like Seamus's style of neon, which is almost like a white with like a color around it, which is totally different too. So it's cool to see people do the different neon versions. I like it a lot. It's cool, and it's like the motif that he's kind of mastered, right? Realistic animal in a circle, and him just doing a different version of it. So, I mean, he could easily do like X-ray versions of them, thermal versions of them, like different versions. It would be cool. Skeleton, yeah, like just it's cool to see him kind of expand. But yeah, interesting piece. Now moving forward, we have the prompt of the week. So, full disclosure, these are all AI generated images because, again, I cannot draw. So, Clink celebrating 5 years. Congratulations to Casey and the team for, just coming back into our lives 5 years ago and launching Clink Room 2.0. The company itself is older than 5 years, but the 5 years is really them celebrating coming back and making hats again. So anything to do with birthdays would be my challenge for you guys this week. So a birthday hat, maybe. Have you ever made like a fitted out of Lego? Like a big life size fitted out of Lego?
There are people who sell fitteds where there's studs on the brim and then there's a patch with studs on, so you could build something on the front of a hat. And ironically, I don't own one of those. I have probably 400 plus hats, but I don't own a hat. And one of the things I actually told Lego is like, you should just sell a hat that has just the word Lego across it. I said, I think you'd be surprised at how many you would sell, because there's this whole hat collector world out there and people buy hats with all kinds of things on them.
Yeah.
But Lego is very sparse in branded apparel that it sells. So they don't have one yet. So
if they made an action, because I think I've seen off-brand Legos, like a licensed product where you can buy it, but they're not Lego. I would want a Lego fitted. That'd be so cool.
It would.
But again, so, congratulations to Casey and team. 5 years. It's been a great 5 years. But anything to do with birthdays, crazy firecracker candle guy there. I think Kong in a birthday hat is a little cliche. I don't know if that will really do well. But fitted hat cake would be cool. Anything birthday related. But on to the main event. Clink has finally they've moved back their fulfillment to San Diego. They got new tape. I still get duties, unfortunately. But I will preview. I do have 2 hats in hand, but I will preview the next colorway drop. So these are Marlin inspired hats, but the colorways were put together by Mr. Dome Pieces Taylor. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if they're going to call this like Mr. Dome Piece Week or if they're going to call it Marlin Week. That I'm not sure of, but they are all Marlin inspired designs. I do have 2 here. I don't know how well. We'll see how well you know me or how well you think you know me. Which 2 do you think I have in this box?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna guess Neon Indian head and oh boy, one of the 2 bisons. I'm not sure which one.
Okay,
those are my guesses. We'll see how right or wrong I am.
So the way I picked these, I picked these. I didn't see the final product. I only saw like what they were, which designs they were, and I picked them based on designs I didn't own. So the two, I mean, you would have never known that, but like the two I picked were the two designs I didn't own. The rest of them I already owned. So I was like, all right, if I already have them, then I don't need another version. But I do kind of regret not getting this one right here, the original in black and this like tan and with a red under, which looks awesome. But the two that I got.
Okay, so now that I know, I'm gonna guess that you bought the plastic warrior because that's an old design. I'm gonna guess that's one of them.
Yeah. All right, so you changed it to plastic warrior. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That is one that I did not get the original of, and I got this version. Which
it looks good.
Yeah.
That dark green shadow effect is really good.
Yeah, and he used like a bunch of like lime greens as the highlight.
Taylor,
you killed this pack.
Again, it looks better. The stitch product looks better even in the mock-up art.
Yeah, for sure. Grander. So it's like a darker gray, so they're not the same gray. Smooth hat. Made in China still. Yeah, nice. And my second hat. I don't know how I missed this originally. But I believe it's called Thankful.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got like this kind of like campfire rust with the black with this like teal under, which I believe is the Arizona state stone or state gemstone or turquoise.
Is that the tip parts? Would you call that a gold color or is it?
So he used, it looks like browns and like a corn silk kind of color. They're not metallic though.
It's hard to tell on the camera. It shines. It looks really good on the light.
Here, hold on. Let me get a little bigger.
I was actually guessing that it was a metallic, but it's just the way the light hits it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think he used a flat gold, but I could be wrong. Oh, that might be copper though. See the little bits here?
Yeah.
That might be copper. Metallic copper.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Killed it.
And that's one of those cases where we talk about a pre-existing line art when, if it receives another color treatment. And, one of the points that I'd make is that there's no one way to do color. Like when we think about the color wheel, you could move to different spots in the color wheel and have like contrasting colors, and you could crank that color wheel and go with 3 completely different contrasting colors. And the design is still it's just a different way of seeing it. I have my own personal taste in what colors I like more than others, but it's fun to see people take these designs and run with them in a different color direction. I've been a big fan of these, these fresh colorways. I'm really excited about some of the things I've seen.
Hell yeah. And the thing too is like, so sometimes you lock yourself in a box. Like for me, like I design a lot of times with like existing colorways in play. Like I like to use things that are familiar, like team colorways and palettes and stuff like that. So sometimes you end up just skipping over huge blocks of color. So it's cool to get like a fresh perspective in here and just play with different colors, because he could have easily went, plain metallic gold, metallic copper, whatever, but I feel like he used different threads and different colors that we don't normally see. So shout out to him. And who knows, maybe he used metallic gold, metallic copper. In case he's like, nah, we're going to use these instead. That could be a thing too. I'm not sure, but either way.
So I'll show you the only Clink hat I've bought now in 2 colors, and it just showed up this week. And I had this in the original dark blue, but I had to have it in this color too. So it's
and then the colors he picked on that is so awesome and so cool. And the textures of the fins and all that stuff, and it still glows in the dark. And like it's cool to see his influence on the Clink Room. And he's a great up and coming designer for sure. He's coordinating a lot with the collector packs, so that's pretty awesome. I'm excited. So Tuesday, the Marlin pack drops. So a little exclusive breaking news. But yeah, other than that, you've been really, really gracious with your time. Where can people kind of connect with you?
Best way is just my Instagram. So it's Falconer18 on Instagram. And I've been doing hat of the day since November. And I have enough hats to finish out the year and more. So I'll hopefully keep doing hat of the day for another, I don't know, another couple hundred days. So, and I respond to messages. So if you want to reach out to me for anything, that's probably the easiest way.
Perfect. And we'll put all of your contact information on the bottom in the description, as well as the links to your YouTube channel. You said YouTube, right? With the stream?
Yeah, we stream both the shows. I appear on the Canadian one and the Georgia one here. We stream on. We use StreamYard, but we stream to YouTube, so you can go back and watch old episodes. But I will just say that we have a lot of fun, and it's not super serious on our Lego chat. So sometimes we're talking about movies and all kinds of other stuff that isn't really Lego related, but we're having a good time. So that's what matters.
That's perfect. All right, Matt. I should call you Professor Gunning because you said Professor, but you probably don't want to be called that on your off time. But nope. Yeah, just really appreciative. Thank you for reaching out. This was a great and awesome episode for Leon and Matt. We're out of here. Peace.
You're at the end of the world as you know it, my dude. Time is up and you out of mood, so what will you do? It's the BP mercenaries not here to